Hello everybody, welcome back to Punkrite. My name is Smee. I'm so glad that you're joining us again today as we look at the process that we've gone through to produce the book Hope for Paradise. Hope for Paradise is a collaborative student project with teachers involved to be able to put out an original children's book, in this case a bilingual children's book. Stick around today, we're going to take a look at the actual process of the book creation and how we went from tangible artwork to digital artwork in terms of making the book. So don't go anywhere. Doing this kind of work is not without its challenges, of course. In particular, when you're dealing with tangible pieces of drawing, you have to convert them into digital imagery. That's not necessarily easy, particularly when you're dealing with different sizes that you have to convert and manipulate so that it fits on the designated page that, in this case, Amazon is given for you. Actually, let me show you just what I mean. So when we have an exact type of work, the challenge, of course, is to get the correct lighting so that you meet all of the requirements for the piece that you're taking a picture of. Of course, this deals with manipulation of light, making sure that you don't have shadows that are going to interrupt what you're trying to portray. And this was a little bit of a challenge. You can see my setup here. I have various studio lights, and those studio lights are projected downwards. Of course, one of the issues is the photographer, and you want to keep the photographer and the photographer's light out of the actual photograph. So I've set this up with an overhead picture, and that overhead picture is, for the most part, going to eliminate any kind of distortion because of the angle at which you're taking the picture. This is really the best way to do it. The other possibility which I could have explored was finding a way to post these on a flat surface against the wall, and it probably would have been better to actually glue them down and make sure the edges are clean, and you can see that that's going to be another place of error, but I didn't really want to destroy the work itself, so I opted for this setup that you're looking at here. Excellent. We've just finished the digital photography part, and depending on which age group you're working with in this type of collaborative project, in this case there were fourth graders, this type of work was a little bit complicated for them, so they're not really able to take charge. If you're dealing with older students, high school students, you might be able to let them, be a little bit freer in their process and be able to do this themselves. They're fully capable. Once you have that digital photography done, now we can move into the next phase, which is actually converting it into digital images that we can manipulate on Photoshop so we can put them into our InDesign. Let's take a look right now. Now that I've imported all of my digital photographs, you can see that there are the JPEG files here. That's what I've taken with the SLR camera. And I've gone in and I've numbered those according to their page number. So this is corresponding page to number 1, number 2, etc. These are individual pages, but the problem is that I need to actually work with spreads. And a spread is a combination of these two pages. So what I'm going to do with both of these is open them with Photoshop, and these are going to be two different files, but now I have to combine these files. And to do that, I'm going to create a new document, and then I'm going to have to define my size. This is where you need to pay attention to what is defined by KDP and the size of book that you want to make. And you can do this in a couple of ways. I'm just going to create a rough document here, and I like to go into the actual crop tool, and I can type in 8.5 inches by 11, let's say. And you can see that's going to give me one spread, but I need to double that so it's actually 17 inches. And that's actually going to be the spread size that I'm working with. Once I have that defined, then I can take these documents and actually pull them in here, which I'll do right now. Okay, I'm going to pull this off, and then I can just drag this document right in, and it's going to be part of this, and I'll size it down. This is very large, so my picture is very large, so I need to make sure that it fits on the spread itself. There we go, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, and this is one side, and I'm going to do that to both sides. And I'll be back in just a second. Now with this, you can see that I've combined both of those documents, and I've tried to clean up that union in the middle. This is important to some extent because you want the colors to look correct. And this was one of the challenges with the digital photography, is that, you have to make sure your settings are accurate so that the colors that you're getting with your photograph are similar across the actual digital photograph. And I've done my best to join this union and do some blur work. And it's not absolutely perfect, but I'm not totally concerned, because I know it's going to be the middle where the spine is, and that's not going to be overly visible. And this is a single document. I've merged these together. So now I'm dealing with one image. And once I have this, I can really start to do some work in InDesign. And you can see that I've done this all the way across the book. These are all of my spreads, and those spreads are created all the way down to the last spread. Now I'm going to show you in just a second what the InDesign copy looks like. Let's go to that. Good. Now I'm actually in InDesign, and InDesign and Photoshop, or the Adobe suites, work across each other perfectly. They communicate. There are no compatibility problems. This is one of the advantages to having the Adobe suite. This is where you must really be concerned with the margins and the borders and the bleeds. This outside the edge is called the bleed. This is the inner margin. Those are stipulated by KDP, and you have to keep a certain distance from the edge. And if you go past those margins for written text, then you're not going to be able to print, and they'll send it back. And you can see here that this is far enough away, so they're not going to have any problems. I have learned that this is actually an artificial intelligence that reads text outside of that. So really there is no leeway. It's better just to be within. And then you have this edge, which is the bleed. And this is what's actually going to be cut off so that you get a nice clean edge. Once you have that image as a background, then you can manipulate where you want that text to best fit within that image or over that image. And here's the book. And now we are fully ready to go and export this as a PDF. And when I do that, you can see I put in all my pictures. This is the actual image for the students. It's all set. The borders are set. And I'm just going to save this as a PDF. It's important that you save this as a PDF, and you can change the format down here. Excuse me, this is the wrong option. So I want to actually export this. So I'm going to go to Adobe PDF presets, and remember that the PDF gives you a different separation of colors for printing. It is the CMYK color scheme, and is not the RGB, which is only for digital and computer imagery. And you can choose the size that you want, and you're good to go. Thanks for joining us today on Punk Riot. Hope you got a little bit about how this process worked, and if anything, you were a little bit inspired to maybe take on something like this yourself. It's totally possible with a little bit of ingenuity and tenacity and collaborative work. Next time on Punk Riot, we're going to look at something that is about the nuances of the language of a children's book, which for me was a beautiful discovery. So join us again next time, and until then, you just keep writing Punk Riot.